All the notorious people we know. And the last person, very special friend of mine, who's been, I think this is her the fourth time that she's joining us at Ake Festival, and we're very lucky to have her. She had to fly in yesterday, all the way from Minnesota. The truth is, when Nnedi agrees to come to Ake Festival, we don't care what we have to do. In many ways, this event being extended to this Sunday is partly so we could accommodate Nnedi's needs. That's how much she means to us. Please join me in welcoming award-winning, fabulous, foremost African writer, Nnedi Okorafor.
All right, we'll just start. So welcome to the 2018 edition of the Ake Arts and Book Festival. My name is Oris Aigbokhaevbolo, Lola. With me are Nnedi Okorafor, Roye, Okupe, and Kola, Olanrewaju. Now, before we got here, I and Nnedi agreed that, well, she would have to answer every question last. So pardon me, there will be no ladies first today. We'll just start off straight with Roye. So Roye, a few months after the film Black Panther was released, Teju Cole, the novelist, wrote an essay for Medium where he said he was more interested in real cities, in real places, as opposed to fictional ones like Wakanda.
Right.
What do you think that means for us, that we are, there's a lot of buzz about African future based on a fictional city?
Right.
Fictional country, rather.
I mean, I think, I don't want to speak for him, but what I got from that statement was that I think people want to see environments that they're familiar with in Africa, or in my case, like Nigeria. A lot of times, as great as, and I'm a huge fan of Black Panther, I'm a huge fan of the movie, and I've read the comics even before the movie came out, and Wakanda is cool and all. But I want to, I want to see Lagos. I want to see Nairobi. I want to see Joburg. I want to see Cape Town, and I want to see superheroes placed in these cities dealing with problems that are unique to African people. I think as much as Wakanda is a futuristic city that was never colonized, I think that's very beautiful because it gives us something to aspire to as Africans. But in reality, there is no Wakanda. And I feel like there is a lot that we can take from actually placing our own heroes in our own environments. Now, there's nothing wrong with making fictional. I have stories where I place my heroes in fictional places, but I think it should also be balanced where you have stories placed in actual locations as well, because American comics do it too. There is no Gotham City, there's no Metropolis, so it's not something that is unique to just African people. But I think the balance of also having real cities is something that it's very, very entertainment is very powerful, and being able to see yourself and see your environment in a way that inspires you, I think it's very good for especially young people growing up, because I didn't have that. Growing up, I had to watch Ninja Turtles in New York and different places. It would have been really cool to see a hero in Lagos, where I lived, and I could point and say, oh, that's, Yaba.
Yeah, but what would that do for you?
What's that?
What would that do for you?
It gives me, it's an identity. It's being proud of who I am and where I am, and being able to see it in the context of a superhero movie. You understand what I'm saying? I think superhero movies are very, at least in my own opinion, they're very popular because a lot of people go there to escape from reality. You want to go and see the good guys win, because you know that good guys are always going to win in a superhero movie. And good guys winning in the context of a city where you're from, I think is something that's very inspiring.
Any comments?
Myself?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah, basically, I think the black community has actually been represented over time, especially through in the medium of entertainment. Through the stories of race, colonization, slavery, or whatnot. You understand? So there's been sort of a kind of negative feeling about that. So Black Panther was kind of what they call it, like a push to the system, you know, as in basically it was very extreme shift from what people were used to, which was quite good. But then again, it gave us a feeling like there was something missing, like there was a gap that was supposed to be a bridge, something, you know, you get what I'm trying to say. So basically from the slavery, all of a sudden to such glamour, you understand? So basically people kind of wanted to know what, you know, the reality of what we are right now. What are our stories? Because over time our culture has been lost, you know, after the colonization and all that. We've lost all our culture, all our tradition, and we've embraced the Western tradition, you get. So there hasn't been any, apart from when I was younger, the only interpretation I had of Africa when I was pretty young was Coming to America. You know Coming to America, right? So that was like the first time I actually, not the first time I actually saw Africa like as Africa, you understand, apart from where I was living, you know, portrayed on film. Then after that I saw Roots. You know, everybody knows Roots, right? So after then, that, you know, everything now kind of took a downward hill, like the kind of stories I was seeing, and you know, so after that, I think after that, the only time that Africa has been kind of glorified in that manner was Black Panther. So I think that's where the effect came from, that Black Panther effect, where everybody was like, well, really rejoicing at, you know, what they were seeing. Like this was like a different portrayal than what we're used to. So I just think that, you know, while that is good, there needs to be some kind of education. You know, about who we are, about what we represent in the media. And I think it's something that everybody here is trying to do, in like with Nnedi in some of her comics, you know, representing Lagos, Nigeria and all that. You know, just sprinkle bits and pieces in there, because sometimes forcing it down people's throats may be, you know, maybe a negative effect. You can make a negative effect. So basically, there's something I think about, like when a child, when you want to give a child medicine, you know, medicine is good for him or her. Sometimes you could put some honey, just something, you know, so that they take it down, and it's something you can, you know, they can take down properly, they can digest. So I feel there's so much positivity about the Black Panther, you know, but there needs to be some kind of education towards that, like basically the missing part. Yeah.
Nnedi?
Can you read that Teju Cole quote one more time?
I don't have it here.
If I had heard internet.
I haven't heard it's in the Black Panther essay.
Okay, I haven't.
It was quite popular at the time. It's
okay.
a shame I don't have the quote here. But if someone towards the end will get that. Okay,
because I'm curious about like the context of what he was saying, that he'd rather see more real. Was he saying more realism as opposed to Wakanda?
No. Really, like just about the place. He would like to see Nairobi discussed, Lagos discussed, as opposed to Wakanda.
Okay. So I think that my issue with that statement, I need to see the full context. So I'm just speaking to the way we've summarized it here. My issue with that is, why does it always have to be either or? Why does it have to be like, okay, we're either talking about realism or we're talking about imagining? Like, can't we have all of it? I think that what I think is most necessary, and I think that what Black Panther is a beginning of, but certainly not an end, is that there needs to be a diversity of voices. We need to have many different types of voices coming out of Africa, the continent. I think that's really important. I think that's where things will really, I guess things will really take off, because.
Yeah, but isn't that a bit of a gatekeeping issue?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we think about why Black Panther was successful.
Exactly.
And we know why.
Well, I don't know. You can tell me.
No, I'm not going to say it. The voices in my head are like, shut up, Nnedi, shut up. But those issues need to be addressed. But I think that the key is in a diversity of voices. I think that the Black Panther film was just a beginning. A good beginning. I'm a fan of the film. I'm clearly a fan of Black Panther. It wasn't perfect. It had its issues, and I think those issues need to be discussed and addressed, and I think those issues are symptomatic of exactly what I'm talking about, how we need to have more voices. But yeah, I'll stop talking because I'll just go off.
All right. I mean, just to take off from there, I'm wondering about the Western influence in some of your work. I mean, you've been, I don't know if the word is accused or said to have a bit of Harry Potter. Sorry, I know it. Sorry. But you can react to this, it's fine. And maybe for the comic writer, there is a bit of, I guess, I was thinking about Wally Williams. Yes. And I felt like his origin kind of reminds me of Batman in the sense that he comes from a... Calm down, Nnedi. Calm down, Nnedi. No, just because of where it comes from. I mean, from a reasonably rich, wealthy family and becomes this person.
So you want to say that because what?
Because he comes from a reasonably rich family, like Bruce Wayne. Yeah. Exactly. And
but they are rich Nigerians too, right?
No, I get that. My point is this, is it entirely possible to be rid of Western influences in this
are
art?
Those Western influences, they're not Western influences. They're a reading by Westerners of something that's not Western. So it's like, it's not they're not influencing us.
What she said.
Okay, I think I'm the man in the middle here.
All right, okay.
Anyone seen The Dawn of Thunder? Yeah? Not many people. Okay, cool. So basically, we had an option, because we're content creators, we had an option what way we're going to go, because we knew that we wanted to kind of portray the African culture to the world, basically package it in such a way that the world would accept, and and they would take it as it is, you understand? Because Black Panther was, with all due respect, a Western movie, Yes. Western movie with African influences. That's the way it was, that's the way it was. Yes. But I think the main reason why a lot of people kind of shy away from direct African content, like actually packaging proper African content to the world, is because of acceptance. There's still a lot we need to do in order to get people to accept who we are, what we're doing. Because over time, we've lost our identity. What's that? I just if you disagree, you can just...
No, what did you mean by acceptance?
Okay, acceptance. Okay, yeah. Let me just put it this way. Let me not use the word acceptance. Sorry, I use the word acceptance. It's almost... Okay, let me use let me use an example that kind of makes sense to me. Everybody knows Kanye West, right? Yes. We all think he's crazy. Yes. What he's doing. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
He's so off his rocker.
But I actually think the guy is quite intelligent in the way he's doing his thing. It's just that people don't understand it. You understand? Wait! I don't agree with Kanye West.
By the way, you're going to a trap.
No. I'm getting somewhere.
I'm from Chicago.
Okay. Okay. So basically, he had an issue where he felt that blacks didn't have the power they needed to basically be independent, from the Westerners. He felt that we always needed to reach out to the white man to do anything. If we needed to have a company, the white man pays the checks, whatever. So he wanted to be independent. So he felt the only way he could do that was to get into a position of power. So that's why he's doing the whole sucking up to Donald Trump and trying to get into, like, really? You get what I mean?
I don't get it.
You don't get what I mean?
But how can he be independent when he's sucking up to Donald Trump?
Yeah,
it's the
sucking up.
opposite.
Sucking up. It looks like he's sucking up.
No, he's sucking up.
No.
He's sucking up.
Okay.
Can we go back to Black Panther?
Maybe I should.
All right, exactly. Yeah, you know what?
Let's go back to Black Panther.
Maybe let's just move ahead. Okay. Agree to disagree. It's fine.
No.
Agree to disagree.
Wait, there's not going to be a mob here.
Okay, but the point I'm trying to make is, right now we have the responsibility to educate the world about who we are, right? And for some strange reason, it's quite difficult to get the visibility, especially from the white communities, about what we are, who we are, even through our movies. If a black movie comes out, it's predominantly a black audience. You get what I mean? So a white audience has to actually see what we're doing and understand us through our media. That the medium of that's the movies, basically, has been one of the most powerful ways of learning about other people's culture. Yeah. I learned about India from Indian movies without even visiting India. everything I know about India was from movies. That's the fact of the matter. Even from where the towns, Bombay, whatever, to the language. I know what Nei means. You understand? So it's just it's a very powerful medium, and I feel that especially through entertainment in particular, if we can find a way to kind of educate the world through that, but without forcing it on them. Now, in our project, we basically took a risk just to see. It was a litmus test, and we're telling the story of Shango. But we tried as much as possible to be as authentic as we could. And surprisingly, there was some acceptance. And I think the only reason why it was accepted that way was because of the medium, because it was an animated, it was an animation.
Yeah, okay.
Right? I kind of felt that if we had live action,
all right,
if there were actual real black people
okay.
in the movie acting the roles of Shango and whatever, it may not have gotten that much.
That's an interesting.
You get what I mean?
That's an interesting.
So
idea.
that's what I meant when I said just a little sprinkle, like find a way to, so it's comfortable for them. It's comfortable.
So basically,
Okay.
you are saying that you need to package it in a way.
You need to package it in a way.
I think.
Okay.
Sorry.
Wait,
Okay.
what I'm understanding, or at least what I'm thinking I'm understanding, because I'm seeing Nnedi just scribbling a lot of things. What I think I'm understanding, is, and I think what I agree with, is that I feel like our culture and our mythology has been demonized so much. If you look at something,
yeah, by
like,
whom? But
By
by
who?
whom?
Exactly.
By ourselves,
By who?
by us.
Yes.
By us.
But
Yeah.
and so one example I always give is that people look at Thor as a hero and then Shango as a demon. Now, what he's saying, basically, or at least what I'm thinking I'm understanding, is
Alright.
the packaging, because there are people in Scandinavia or whatever that worship Thor and they do all these, things, or all these crazy things, or whatever the case may be. But the way Marvel has packaged Thor as a hero and as this, guy, savior, whatever the case may be, has made it, at least in my own opinion, acceptable for people to take their kids to go and watch someone that is called the God of Thunder. But in your case, I think what you're trying to say is that if you did the same thing with Shango, you wouldn't get the same results.
No, yeah. If it was, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Okay, Nnedi.
I think that we also have to recognize the system.
Mm-hmm.
The system is stacked against African culture to begin with, and also we have to remember who, when we're talking about the film industry, who are we talking about? Are we talking about Nollywood, or are we talking about Hollywood? If we're talking about Hollywood, we know the system is stacked against any kind of black representation. And I'm like, for me as a creator, I am dead against making my work comfortable for a Western audience. I'm just, and I've been, and I understand exactly what you're saying. To be successful within those mediums, you have to make certain compromises. I understand that. I just know, for me as a creator, I refuse to do that. And I think that, but I also think that there's a way to bypass that system. There's a way to and it's very, very difficult. And at least what I've done for me is that, first of all, I know the system. I know that, and I've dealt with the system. But for me, it's like the way I've bypassed it is, one, looking at the long game as opposed to the short game. Like, I don't look at instant gratification or instant success. I'm looking at things over time and developing things over time and gradually telling these stories and just keep doing it over and over and over and over again, no matter what kind of success I've had. That's been just my general way of handling those things. But also, you just have to tell a really good story. I believe in the power of storytelling. Like, if the story is told well, no matter what type of story it is, even if it's the type of story that's completely unfamiliar to an audience, if it's told well, they will get it.
Yeah,
So
okay. Sorry, I have to ask this.
Ask
the
well,
moderator.
we're still on this topic.
Yes,
so
we're still on
yeah.
this topic.
Okay,
Nnedi,
so I know everybody agrees with Nnedi right now. Now, I need you guys to understand that the words coming out of my mouth, the words I'm using may not be exactly what I mean. Okay, so now, so okay, let's get this straight. Let's get it straight. The project our company is working on, Dawn of Thunder, is not in any way meant to be comfortable. In fact, we went very, very raw. And, it's in Yoruba, right? It's in our local dialect. It represents our tradition as much as possible. Now, the only thing I said was, I know for a fact that in order to get the visibility, in order for people to see it, it has to be in a medium that could pass through certain, I'll call it roadblocks, you understand? Now, every Nollywood movie that has had, traditional, what's the word? Elements, like maybe a shrine or whatever, trust me, would not make it out of Nigeria. No, you make it into Ghana or something like that, but definitely no other person is going to watch it. You understand? But these elements, sorry?
No, we don't know about that, but keep going.
Okay, we don't know about that.
But keep going.
But it's believed. It's believed.
Why do I say so? Well, I just feel...
no, you...
Do you want to stop now?
You're making a point.
Okay. No, okay.
It's...
You agree with me? At least I have one person.
Okay. He has been trying to.
Wait. I wanted to go back to something Nnedi had said earlier about telling a good story. Yeah. But do you think it's not for you now? This is Nnedi. Nnedi, do you think it's what you say about telling a good story is also a reflection of a bit of proximity? Because you are there, so it might be easier for you to say that a good story will travel.
Wait, are you okay? So you're addressing this idea of me being in the United States, and
precisely,
that?
Yes.
No,
okay.
Definitely not. Okay. Because I've had to fight like all the stories that I'm writing from the very beginning have not like. I had to deal with exactly what we're talking about. This idea of this type of story is not going to sell. You know, they deal with the same ideologies in the United States. Like writers who are in the United States writing this kind of thing deal with the same issues of this isn't going to sell. No one's going to read this. A lot of especially black American writers who are writing speculative fiction, for example, they tend to self-publish because they're like, I can't. You know, these. Western publishers are never going to publish what I'm writing. So it's not about proximity. It's definitely not. It's really the reason why I've gotten as far as I've gotten is attitude. It's like and a lot of it is ignorance as well because and I will admit that because when I wrote, for example, Zara the Windseeker, especially in 2005, it was unheard of. What I was writing was unheard of in the publishing industry. Flat out. Nobody was doing that at all. And if I had looked at the statistics and seen, one, the number of people in general who get published, two, the number of people in general who get published by the big publishers, and then as somebody writing speculative fiction with black culture, black spiritual identity, like very Nigerian story, science fiction, there's nothing. I would have just been like, okay, this will never happen. But because I love storytelling so much. You know, it was just something that I enjoyed doing. Having an audience wasn't the most important thing. All of that. It was more, you know, I was just kind of following these things that I was doing. I didn't think about the fact that there was no one doing what I was doing. And so because of that ignorance and that just not paying attention to the climate, I just put it out there. And I happened to find those people in the industry who were accepting of what I was writing. I happened to find them. I was very, very lucky. So, like others who were writing what I was writing, there were gatekeepers keeping them out. You know, so it's not a matter of, okay, you're an American writer, and therefore it's easier for you to get that out. Not at all. Not at all. It's like it's a struggle even over there.
Yeah, and I'm going to second that because. There's something that she said about the gatekeepers. In 2013, I pitched EXO, which is the thing you compare to Batman. I don't know why. I pitched it to a very, very well-known producer in Hollywood. And the first thing he told me was, you need to change the race of this character. No one is going to watch a superhero movie that's based on an African character, you know. So I went home and I cried like a man, of course, for about 1 week. But, you know, after that, I got up and I said, why do I have to believe what he said? So from there, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to self-publish my own books. Because I'd also been pitching the story, you know, to different publishers, and I got like hundreds of rejections. And after that, I was like, you know, I'm just tired. I'm going to do a Kickstarter, and I'm just going to put my work out there. And that's how I published 7 graphic novels to date now, basically on my own, just going out there. So I think, like she said, you just have to find ways to basically just break the system, because it wasn't created for you. It wasn't created for us. So we have to make our own way and do it the way we feel is best for us as storytellers.
So, I mean, going by that, if you were to advise someone today, what would you say?
Advise someone to do what?
To do what you did. I mean, in going past, in bypassing the gatekeepers.
Buy a lot of tissues for crying, because trying to get your work out there is not easy, but it's possible.
All right.
And that's one of the reasons I do what I do. If there's someone out there looking at me who wants to be on this stage, I want you to know that I'm an ordinary person. I'm not a super talented. Like, before I wrote EXO in 2015, I hadn't even written a poem. Matter of fact, I was trying to get other writers to write my story, and people rejected that as well. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to learn how to write. You understand what I'm saying? So it's possible. It may be difficult, but it's possible. But it starts with you believing in yourself. It's not your father believing in you or your mother or whatever. People can push you and believe in you, but if you don't believe in yourself, you've already lost.
So it's about belief then?
It starts with that. It's not just about that. There's tons of other things that go in that. But if you don't start off by believing in yourself first, no one's going to do that for you. So you have to start there, educate yourself, and when you are doing something, don't just compare. Don't try and do something within your own local. Like, don't try and be a local champion. Like, when you put out your work, it has to be comparable to the best person. Like, if I put my comic beside a Marvel comic, right? The art, the storytelling, everything, it's on par. It's not easy to get there, but I don't write because, I want to be the best African writer. Like, I don't think that way. You understand what I'm saying? I write because I want to write the best stories for people around the world. I just happen to be an African who wants to tell African stories for people not just in Africa, but all over the world. Sorry, did I say something funny?
Is there something happening around there? Kola Wole, right. Yeah, just going from what he said just now. I'm wondering, you're going to make a feature film soon, right?
Yeah, we're working on that right now.
Okay, so I'm wondering, do you think that all of this buzz on Black Panther, how does it affect your film? Do you think there's any correlation between that?
We released Dawn of Thunder last year,
right.
August 2017, and it got quite a lot of mileage around the world. And shortly after Black Panther was released, that's when we started getting the attention we were actually looking for.
Okay.
Coincidentally, but it was expected because she would know more about this. But immediately after Black Panther, there was, just for the business side of things,
all right.
They were looking for Black content, the next Black content that they could monetize. So that was the mentality. So I see that as almost like what happens all the time, and it has nothing to do with white or black or whatever. But basically, they were coming back to Africa to fish out because they were saturated with their own content, and our content was like something fresh. It was a fresh appeal. Apart from the fact that Black Panther made so much money, and they realized that blacks could throw their money at everything. They just felt that was the next thing, and it's good. It's good for us, regardless of how they're looking at it, regardless of how they feel. Maybe it's based on thinking like an opportunist, but basically it was also good for us. So it was an opportunity for us to actually push whatever we had further, and see how it would go.
Nnedi, you have had a bit of experience with adaptations. How was CJ Obasi's adaptation of your story, Hello Rain?
Oh yes, now that was a good positive experience. Yeah, incredible. Because one, I had known of his work for a while, and so when he came to me asking about adapting my short story Hello Moto, that was like. That was what I was hoping for and what I was waiting for, because I have the whole HBO thing and some other things that are in the works, but I also feel it's very important to work with Nigerian directors and producers as well. So when he came to me, I was like, yes, perfect. Okay, here we go. And he's got the strange mind that goes really well with my strange work, and that was 100% positive. It was like there were certain things that I didn't have to worry about, with his adaptation that I have to worry about a lot with the other stuff. No.
Tell us something, Nnedi. Give us a headline.
No, not a headline, please. Point of view. CJ being, a Nigerian film director, there are certain things like just about the story, about the characters, about the setting, all of that I just didn't even have to say anything. Like I didn't have to explain myself as much as like, even with the, with Who Fears Death, the one that's being adapted by HBO, I have to explain a lot. I have to make sure, like every little detail, like things that I normally would just not think about that are just normal and assumed, I have to explain them. The same with Marvel. Like working with Marvel with the illustrators, I have to explain every little detail, like even down to the characters' hairstyles and their edges, things like that. I had to explain that. With CJ, I didn't have to do any of that, and it was very, it felt comforting, and I felt far more secure working with him.
Have you seen the final product?
Yes.
Okay, and you were quite impressed with what?
Oh yes, I loved it. Yes.
Wow. Okay. So I was going to ask this about you in particular, Nnedi. What role do you think our past has in creating these fictional futures in terms of myths?
What role does the past have in creating
fictional futures?
Fictional futures.
Yes.
Well, I believe the past and the present and the future are all intertwined. That's my own personal philosophy. I know that sounds weird. They're all intertwined. They affect each other. Time to me is not linear. So the future is greatly affected by the past. The past is greatly affected by the future. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
Maybe specifically about myths. Like Igbo cosmology, for instance, do you think it has a place in, if the guys from the Greek mythology have migrated to the screens, what do you think our chances?
I have a different philosophy on all of that. I think I will say that I don't see there's a difference between mythologies and cosmologies. Like there's a difference between seeing Thor as a mythology versus seeing Thor as that is your deity. So there's that. And I think that those two ideologies, creators can have different ideologies on that, and that leads to different types of storytelling. And so if you feel that, like, if you see Thor as, I don't know why I'm talking about Thor. If you see Shango as, that's who you believe in, then that's not a presentation. That's not a mythology. It's not something of the past. And it can be something of the future. It just makes Shango carries on to the future. So, and that's natural to me. So that's how I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, I think if you don't know where you're coming from, how do you know where you're going? And it's something that has really affected me in my own writing. Growing up in Lagos, it's funny that I knew more about Greek mythology, Roman history, Nordic mythology than I did about anything about African history, African mythology. And that's because when you turn on the screen, you see all these movies like Gladiator, Hercules, and all these things, and you get to understand other people's mythology and culture, and you don't even get to see or even appreciate yours. So for me personally, I even had to go back to do a lot of research before I started writing, because I wanted to make sure that in every way possible that I actually instilled a lot of what is in our history and what is in our culture from the past in what I'm doing with my characters, because I feel like that's the way you can thrust them to the future, is through entertainment, because entertainment lives on forever. And that's the way I do it with my comics, animation, and everything that I do moving forward.
Okay, so the main reason why we went into what we're going into, or what we were doing with the Dawn of Thunder was we realized that the portrayals of our past, our culture, had kind of washed away with time, and there was a duty to bring them back in such a way that people would, especially, you know, kids, adults, whoever, would be able to appreciate who we are or what we had in our past before everything was wiped away. Now, we live in a very religious society, and I think that's one of the reasons why most of these things have been kind of bottled up. We're kind of shy about accepting the culture where we come from, and we are more comfortable with looking, you know, ahead, which is fine, you know. But I think there has to be at least some representation of the past as it was, to an extent, to educate everybody. Because when people don't see a direct representation, they kind of they don't know. Like if, let me put it in a way that makes sense. Anybody watch this movie Apocalypto? Yes. Good. Okay, so Apocalypto to me was a very, it was something I looked up to in terms of how they executed that. Now, forget the fact that it was a Mel Gibson movie and that's why it was successful. It was bold in the way it was executed, you know, from the language to the rituals, to everything. You understand? I got to know a lot about them as a people. So these are things that have to be portrayed in everything we're doing to an extent, so that people can actually know the truth. You know exactly, you know, who we are as a people, because that loss of identity is why a lot of things, especially with black people around the world, that's why there's racism. That's why, because they just feel we're lost as a people. You understand? So unless we're represented by something, then, you know, we're basically sharp.
Okay, just information. After this panel, we are going to screen the trailer for his feature film. Feature film?
Yeah. It was a short film, but we're now adapting it to a feature length.
So yeah, you might want to stick around for that. I have a trick question for everybody, by the way. So here, if you were rating it's a funny question, so nobody should crucify me. If you're going to rate the powers of the gods, or rather of our gods, with the powers given to all of these guys from the West, where would you fix T'Challa?
Who?
T'Challa.
Oh, okay. So wait, I'm trying to...
It's not a god, really.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Yes, exactly. Which is...
So that's
for Nnedi, actually. Exactly. I'm going by their powers.
By their powers?
Yes.
Okay.
If you have designs of making Shango into a comic, into a movie, for instance, and the powers he'd have, where would you fix him on the ratings of, say, the Marvel stars?
Okay, so let's say we have a scale of 1 to 10. You're trying
Precisely.
to, okay, so where will we fit T'Challa?
Yes.
Somebody
says 0.
I mean, so okay, are we saying okay, Hulk is a 10, and then
I'm just.
Okay, because I mean everybody.
You can make the list yourself. You can make the ratings yourself.
Nnedi, what do you think?
Actually, wait. Nnedi's supposed to answer this one last, because we have an agreement about this.
Oh, you have an agreement?
No, we've talked about this.
Okay, man. I mean, T'Challa's powers. Okay. If I put Hulk at a 10, I'll put T'Challa at 11. I'm just joking. First of all, okay, he has the suits, and yeah, he has. I mean, this is a very weird question.
It is.
7.
Kola, any ideas?
I don't even understand the question. Let me just be frank.
Yes, and Nnedi.
Yeah.
Okay, if do you have any comments at all? Otherwise, Nnedi should.
About what?
About this.
What exactly?
Do you have any comments about the question?
Question. Okay,
Yes.
basically, why are you rating him? Why? What's the rating
Exactly. My point is this: interrogate it if you want to.
Okay, go ahead.
No,
Tell
you
me to
interrogate.
interrogate. You told me to answer. Now you're telling him to interrogate.
You can do the same thing.
Okay. Black Panther, without the, he's a regular guy. Without, obviously, from the movie we even saw when they stripped the suits.
Yes.
I'll rate him a 4.
4. Okay, even me, that one is.
There's so many heroes that are supposedly that are more powerful than him. Let's be frank.
Yeah.
I didn't say 4.
Okay, should I add a 5? 1. Let me add 1 to it.
It's fine. Nnedi.
Wait, what's the question again? Because it just
All right,
shifted in my
listen.
mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know the original question. They just shifted it.
Okay.
The point is this. I'm saying if you are going to adapt, if you're going to put Shango in one of these Marvel movies, where would you put him on the list of powers?
You said
Yeah.
T'Challa,
You
not
said
Shango.
T'Challa.
Oh, listen
That's
to...
where it's, okay.
You said
Yes,
T'Challa.
okay.
Yes.
Wait.
Shango is
I
a
said-
10.
Shango is a 10?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So where's Chala?
5. Why? It's a 5.
So what do you think, Roye?
Yeah.
I don't think anything.
So Nnedi,
It is a trick question because,
No,
it's
of course
not
it's
even
not
that
fair.
it's not fair. It's that, well, at least in my opinion, Shango is a god.
Yeah.
The
Exactly.
end. So he's not even in the same realm as the superheroes. Yeah.
It's always
You
up to
wanted
the
to say
it's
more,
always
Nnedi.
up to the people writing.
Nnedi, you wanted
Though,
to say more. Sorry, Nnedi, you wanted to say
No, I'm
more.
I
saying
do
part.
not want to say more.
Of course you want to say more.
Yeah, do you have a...
I was going to
go
say.
ahead.
I mean, honestly, like because this is something that people do all the time. Oh, is Superman stronger than? It's up to the writer. If someone wants to make Hank Pym or whatever defeat Hulk, it's just how creative are you going to be
Okay.
with your writing or whatever. But in terms of actually rating powers I don't subscribe to stuff like that at all.
I have just a little more to throw into the mix. Okay, if we're looking at Shango and rating him with superheroes, where does Jesus come in? Enough said.
1,000.
Nnedi, I mean, yeah, you were saying something about, I mean, privately, that is, about the idea of, you do not subscribe to the idea of transposing Shango into a superhero movie. And you were giving me reasons why. This is actually what I wanted you to talk about. The idea of adapting a god into a superhero movie. You said it was demeaning, so I wanted you to repeat, talk about that.
Well, okay, so this is my humble opinion, okay? Please. Those of you on Twitter, this is my humble opinion. Yeah, so it basically comes back to the point that I just made, about Jesus. I mean, we don't see, even though I think I may have seen maybe 1 or 2 comics where Jesus was portrayed as a superhero, but to do that, I mean, just think about that. I think that kind of brings my point home with Shango, because for some, Shango is the deity that they believe in, and so I feel like with African, let's just take Nigerian, with Nigerian deities, making them into superheroes is to make them human. I mean, that's the way I see it. It reduces them because, for them to be superheroes, they have to have like a human form and have human goals and all of that. And I think that's problematic. And I also think that looking at the way that colonialism has affected Nigerians, and this is where it gets...
Keep going.
where religion, and this is Sunday too, and people are just kind of... Oh God, I'm done. No,
don't be-
Nope.
don't be like
Cut
this.
it off.
I want to be set up.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So there's an idea that Wakanda and talk about Afrofuturism is an indulgence of the diaspora. What is the need for? There is that thought that it's an indulgence of the African diaspora, and maybe we do middle class Africans as well. What exactly is the need for the regular guy?
I'm sorry. What did you...
Listen, there's talk about Afrofuturism.
Yeah.
And Wakanda are the indulgence of the diasporic Africans.
Okay.
I'm saying, what is the need for the average Nigerian or for the average African?
What is the need for the average Nigerian?
Yes, if you're talking about the continent that's ravaged by poverty, and there's the idea that a lot of what talk about futurism and Wakanda is indulgence by Africans in the diaspora. What exactly is the need for?
I mean,
guy.
the way I look at it, and at least the way I went into the movie, because I already knew the story of Black Panther before even the movie came out, to me, it's an aspiration of, it's not only an aspiration, it's also a what if, right? Okay, if we weren't colonized, what could we have been or whatever? But I look at it as something that we can aspire to be. It's not, as much as it is fantasy and it's fiction, having someone looking at your culture, and I know that, okay, in the way they presented the movie, it wasn't like you could see Yoruba people or whatever, but you could see the African context, you could see the themes, and you could see all that in there. Looking at it in such a majestic way is very inspiring. And I don't think you have to be rich or poor to be able to look at something like that and be inspired to be a better version of yourself and inspired to make your country or your continent a better version than what it is. So in terms of indulgence, and I don't really get into all that political whatever, I just looked at it as, wow, what can we become if we all come together and do things the way that are supposed to be done? Like, what is it that we can achieve when we're all going on our own full potential? And I feel like that's really what everyone should take from the movie. It wasn't a perfect movie. There were a lot of things, well, not a lot, there were things that could be better, things that were wrong. But in the entire context of watching the movie, honestly, for me, it was very inspiring. And I don't care what part of Africa you're from, what demographic, male, female, rich, poor, I think everybody can come out of there being inspired to be a better person, a better nation, and a better continent.
Can I add something? Because I agree with everything you just said, first of all. But
Thank God.
No, but as you were talking, I thought about what you mean by indulgence of blacks of the diaspora and upper class blacks and and I was just sitting here thinking about Black Panther, and I'm thinking about one of my biggest criticisms of Black Panther, which is that it's focused on royalty. Yeah. Like the whole plot is focused on people of wealth. Yeah. And so, yeah, if we're thinking about those who don't have, watching Black Panther, it's like, it's the point of view, their point of view is not represented at all. Yeah. I think that's a criticism, but I don't think I would apply that to all of Afrofuturism, though. I think Afrofuturism does address the voices of many types of people. I don't think that, but I think that is a viable criticism of Black Panther, that it's an indulgence.
No, I think you actually make a great point, because if you look at it from, and I have a lot of African American friends who came out saying that they could relate more to Killmonger than T'Challa himself. So I think, like you said, there is a criticism to be said for that. But like you said, there's also, and that's what I always try to say, Black Panther isn't the only Afrofuturist story out there.
Yes, right.
Go on Google, look at comics, look at what people are doing. There's tons of representation and tons of different perspectives, like you said, from people from all parts of Africa as well.
All right, thanks. We are going to open it up now. If you have any questions, please, let me see hands. Just 2 questions. Oh, and we just have 1. Great. Okay, 2. All right, the lady first.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Sin from CNCCNG. My question is for Nnedi. What does it feel like to work with G.R.R. Martin? I've admired him for a very long time, and when I saw your picture at the Emmys, I was like, oh my God, see my sugar daddy. So, what does it feel like to work with somebody who is such a literary god? Thank you.
That's a great question. I've known him since 2014. We met in a completely different context, and from the moment that I met him, we had bonded because he actually is very educated. He's been a professor before. I've been a professor. He's been a journalist. He went to Northwestern University, that's in Chicago. So like his trajectory as a writer has been very long. He's had to write a lot, and he writes many different types of fiction. You know, just he's done screenwriting, he's done short stories, he's done novels, he's done many different types, and so, you know, I related to him instantly, and he's also very just approachable. So it's not like, oh, I'm talking to this huge guy. He's someone that I know at this point very well. We text all the time about lots of different things, and so it's not like a starstruck kind of thing. It's more like dealing with a colleague, and he also is extremely helpful, just in terms of I've reached a place, especially with the TV stuff, where there are pitfalls that I needed warning about, and he's been really, really helpful with that. So working with him has been really cool.
So can you introduce him to her? Anyway, what's the second question? There was the guy on the left.
My question is for Kola. So what you said about how your short film received more attention after Black Panther came out, and with more like producers looking for more black content, like, do you think that there's a possibility that it's kind of like a fad, that, oh yeah, let's just get black content for the moment, and do you think that that's dangerous, and what can you do about it?
Thank you. I think the best thing to do about it is take advantage of the opportunity at that point in time and try and, you know, make it as effective as possible, because it is a fad as far as I'm concerned. It's something that, you know, is the ink thing right now. The next thing is going to come, and, you know, everything is going to be like, oh, no need for that anymore. So whenever you get that opportunity, it's best to just take it, and that's what we're trying to do. That's why we're working on the movie right now, and so far we're very grateful, because it was a small project, like it was just a dream, just something that we thought, let's just see how it's going to work out, and, you know, for some strange reason, everybody kind of loves it. So we'll just see what we can do with that, and, you know, hopefully it will be more than a fad over time.
Nnedi?
Yeah, can I add to that? One thing, I wouldn't say it's a fad. I think that it's opened eyes. I think that the interest, and I can say this from experience, the interest right now is rabid. It's utterly rabid. To those who are creators right now, understand that it's rabid, and the things that if you're putting your stuff out there, put out the best you can put out, because I think the interest is definitely there. Also, to creators, don't think about whether this is a fad or not. Just grab it and use it. Use it and take it not even as far as you can take it, but like, use it and incorporate it into what you're doing, because, as I said earlier, the system is already rigged. The system is already, it is geared towards non-African stories. That is just a fact. So the way that you navigate your way through things will be different, and it's different for everybody, but you see these things as tools. So the success of Black Panther is definitely something that Black creatives can utilize, and just view it as that. Don't view it as, okay, this is just a temporary thing. Just take it and run with it.
And with that, we've come to the end of this panel. Please, an applause for my panelists. Yes, we are going to see the trailer for Dawn of Thunder now by Commotion Studios, right? Yeah. Okay.
mo fẹ́ mọ̀ nípa ọjọ́ ọ̀la mi ni. Sùúrù ọmọ mi, sùúrù. Rántí pé kò sí bílẹ̀ sí lè sún tó ojúmọ́ mọ́ dandan. Mo mọ̀ ọ́ bàbá, mo kàn wulẹ̀ fẹ́ gbáradì ni, mo gbọ́dọ̀ mọ̀. Kò burú, mo kà rẹ̀ mi. Ó ń ṣe ọ́ bí ikọ̀ tí mo tó dà lọ́la, ṣùgbọ́n àìgbọ́ sí ohun tá a bá mọ̀ ẹlẹ́dàá rẹ̀ lágbára pọ̀, òun náà ni ó sì ṣàmọ̀nà bí gbogbo òpin rẹ̀ ó ṣe tú ọ lọ. ọ́ fojú rinjú pẹ̀lú àwọn ẹrù mọ̀lẹ́ ìbọ̀rà ojú sánmà àtẹ̀bọ̀rà nú omi àtòfiṣe ògùn ọ̀nà ìwọlẹ́ni náà tá a yàn tí ó gbé ògùn olúborí gbogbo lẹ̀kílẹ̀ àtọ̀làjú kọ́làjú ga lọ́wọ́ ìwọ lágbára tó kọjú òye rẹ ọ̀pọ̀ ni ó máa fẹ́ olójú fẹ́ ọ lẹ́nu àpò tàgìrì lọ́ọ́ jẹ fún pé èèyàn bí mọ̀nìmọ́lẹ́ ṣe ń bára rẹ̀ ṣiṣẹ́ yìí tó ṣe ń gbóná lẹ́nu bí òrìṣà bẹ́ẹ̀ lágbára yóò fara pẹ́ ti mú ìtàn àtọwọ́dọ́wọ́ ṣùgbọ́n agbára yìí kan náà tí ó mú kókó rẹ̀ búyọ yìí náà ni ó gbé ìṣubú rẹ̀ o tó bá wá kù wọ́ nìkan kọ́ ọ tí lu ara rẹ̀ pa Ṣàngó.
And I started stalking him. I hunted him down. I'm very proud of this. Yes, yes. Please, guys, let's give a fantastic round of applause to Oris, Nnedi, Kola, and Roye. Thank you so much. And thank you for letting us screen. Photographers, we'll do the group photo. And we're going to take the book chat.